I think teachers are interesting because they come with a history of how they've been taught and actually what they understand by education. And one of the things I read a long time ago was talking about the 15,000 hours somebody's been in education, and that's a long apprenticeship of observing teachers in practice. And that acts as a strong lens through which they observe things and make sense of things. And that filters all the ideas that come through to them. So one of the issues with that is teachers will often reject things which don't fit into that sort of model, or they might, if it does fit in some ways, they're just kind of like continuing with the status quo because it fits in, they're comfortable with it and those sorts of things. So one of the things I think we have to do as teacher educators, which is a major challenge, is actually get people to question that model and to try to think, is this the right way of doing things? And that's quite difficult because it's something people are often quite unconsciously wedded to. It's very deeply inbuilt into them. So I think what we have to try to do is get people to reflect on that, but there's also a cycle of having to challenge their ideas and also get them to reflect on experiences, and the three things sort of like feed into each other. And there's no right way to get a teacher to rethink how they do things, but we've got to find ways in which we can get them to question what they do and actually think, is that the best way in which they can do things? And it's not a case of telling them, they've got to work it out for themselves, and it's a case of using the challenges, using the experiences and using that reflection together breaks down the sort of inertia which often happens. Because I think what will often happen is that you get socialised into how a school operates or how a department operates, and one of the dangers then is actually you may not be putting the values which are important to you into practice, and that creates an internal dissonance or discord. And one of the best ways I've found with teachers is to get them to recognise what that is, because quite often that doesn't happen, and then try to explore ways in which they can put into practice what really matters to them. But they also have to think quite deeply about what does matter to them. And I think sometimes that's something which gets missed in teacher education. So it's quite a complex process, and it's a very individual process, but it needs time, and with the right support, then I think teachers can discover what's important and find ways in which they need to move forward. The phrase I always use when I'm working with my trainee teachers is rattling their cage. The idea, because they're coming in with their own ideas, and my job as a teacher educator is not to tell them it's right or wrong, but to get them to question that and shake their ideas around. And so it is the combination of getting them to reflect, giving them appropriate experiences to reflect upon, and giving them experiences which challenge how they reflect. And so it's that combination of challenge, experience and reflection which comes together, which rattles their cage. I did have a trainee teacher who famously once said to me, I haven't had my cage rattled so much as being thrown off a mountain through this process.
Okay, thanks a lot.